Hi, my name is Rusty Beck, and this is Identity, a vlog dedicated to exploring what it means to be human. Today we begin my new story, The Long Shadow, with a crime that was committed over 30 years ago, about 10 feet from where I'm standing in this old building, which used to be a bank. There are two brothers in their 30s. They were returning home from an evening at the Forum in Inglewood. They had just watched a Kings hockey game. And they pulled over their car and got out to use an ATM. A few minutes later, they were shot to death in a robbery, and the killers were never found. Now, here to reopen this case and to help reconstruct these two terrible homicides is Francis Buzz Watson, who is a reserve uniform officer with the LAPD and a civilian tech in its scientific investigation division. So Buzz, please set the stage for us. These two brothers, Jay and Stephen. Jay was the eldest.
Yes, Jay was a 38-year-old contractor who specialized in building swimming pools and installing spas. And Stephen was 35 and an engineer at JPL and also an associate professor of physics at Caltech.
And so they stopped at this bank. Why?
Well, Jay was dropping Stephen off at his house. He lived about 3 blocks from here. And they stopped here to get some cash, probably because they spent more money than they intended at the hockey game.
On what?
Food, hot dogs, beer, and some jerseys, some small Kings jerseys, hats, and things like that.
Souvenirs for kids.
Yes.
Okay. And so all of these souvenirs, they were in the car when the bodies were found.
Right.
So walk us through what happened.
Well, Jay parked his car where the Prius is, and he and Stephen got out of the car and walked up to the ATM, which was about here. And just as Stephen was taking his bank card out, 2 men in sunglasses, baseball caps, and beards stepped out from around the corner of the building and held them up at gunpoint.
Okay, and this was before Jay put his card in the ATM?
Yes, the police think that the killers mistimed it a little.
Okay. And so the robbers, they pull out a gun?
Yes, and according to the summary of the security video, which I haven't seen yet, Stephen didn't have his bank card with him, and the robbers didn't believe that, and so...
So they shot Stephen in the chest.
Yeah, and Stephen fell about here. And then the killers took Jay and pushed him up to the ATM, put his card in the slot, but he didn't have much money in his account. He didn't have any more than, say, $60. But they took that from him and his Swiss Army watch, and then they shot Jay in the head and ran off. Now, Jay died instantly, but Stephen probably bled out over the next 2 minutes. And this whole area where we're standing was saturated with his blood.
And then the killers were never found?
No. The LAPD worked the case very hard, but Jay and Stephen were shot at the height of the crack epidemic, and there were over 1,400 homicides that year.
That's about 4 a day.
Yeah. And eventually the LAPD just had to move on.
So now you're standing here 30 years later at the edge of a very, very cold case with no suspect, no evidence, not even a single lead, attempting to recreate this crime scene.
Because Jay Watson was my father, and Stephen, his brother, was my uncle. And I promised myself when I was 11 years old that one day I would find the men that killed them.
Thank you, Buzz.
Thank you.
That's the beginning of The Long Shadow. Join us next week when we'll learn just exactly what the police discovered the day after Jay and Stephen Watson lost their lives. Until then, I'm Rusty Beck, and this is Identity.